Shrek really speaks for itself, doesn't it? It's absolutely hilarious. We all know that it's a modern take on a Disney fairy tale, or at least it was a modern take when it came out 20 years ago, because Shrek came out 20 years ago. I can't believe that. Shrek is as old now as Raiders of the Lost Ark was when Shrek came out. 29th of June, 2001. Time is really strange, but I'm not here to contemplate the complexities of chronology. I'm here to tell you the origin story of Shrek. As I was saying, we all know that Shrek is basically fairy tales, but edgy. But a lesser known fact is that it was based on a book. Now saying that, there are definitely some of you that already know this, you clever clogs, you clever clogses? Clever clogs is the plural of clever. Whatever. I'm sure that there are people watching this that have seen the Tumblr posts and Twitter posts about the Shrek book. For the unenlightened, here are the posts that I'm talking about. So you've got Shrek meeting and insulting a peasant and then heating up his stolen chicken with laser eyes whilst the peasant dies from looking at Shrek. And then you've got him eating some thunder and killing clouds with a gun. And then you've got Shrek's beautiful wedding with whatever this thing is, officiated not by a priest because God hates Shrek, but by a crocodile. Okay, those of you smugly thinking that you already know all of this, I wouldn't think you're too clever because these photos have been doctored. By which I mean, they just changed the text. The text isn't the same as what's in the actual book. All the pictures are 100% real. I mean, obviously though, right? What kid's book is gonna have a character pull out a gun that specifically kills clouds? You know, now that I say this, I'm remembering that America exists, and that's absolutely something that would be in an American children's book. Do not fret though, because I am here to bring you the true word of Shrek, the original lost pages of the holy book. As you can see here, Shrek does meet a peasant and he does insult him, but he doesn't steal his chicken, he steals his pheasant, because it rhymes with peasant. And he doesn't kill him either. The peasant just faints because Shrek is real ugly. Which is funnier. I think that's funnier. As you can see on this page, Shrek doesn't use a gun to kill the clouds. He just eats their lightning. Which, by the way, they sent down purely to kill him because he is ugly. There was no other reason other than they thought, man, that guy's ugly, let's just kill him. I didn't flub that line, you did. Let's move on. Personally, I think the book is still pretty great. I mean, book Shrek and film Shrek have got similar enough energy. I don't know, I think it works. And the book follows roughly the same plot as the first film. The core story of an ugly monster going on a journey with a donkey to a castle to find some ugly princess is still there. That's entirely the story of the book. However, there are some pretty major differences. For example, in the film, Fiona turns into an ogre at night because of a curse, but that isn't something that happens in the book. It's entirely made up for the film. In the book, the princess is just ugly because she's just an ugly monster. That's just what she is. There's no explanation given. Look, I'll rush through the basic plot of the book just to give you an idea of the changes that they made. So in the book, Shrek isn't on a journey to regain a swamp. He's just been kicked out by his parents because they've decided he's old enough to fend for himself. The reason he goes to the castle to get the princess is because a witch told him that's what he'd do. So he heads out on his journey and causes some trouble along the way. He met a peasant and some thunderclouds, as you already saw. And in the book, there is a dragon. The dragon does exist. However, in the film, they made the choice to make the dragon sexy for some reason. Do with that what you will. Also, in the book, the dragon doesn't end up banging the donkey. That's also something they just put in the film. So Shrek beats the dragon with his fire breath, because Shrek in the book has fire breath, by the way, not sure why. Then he goes for a nap, has a nightmare, wakes up, meets Donkey, goes to the castle. Now, in the films, Dragon was guarding the castle, but he's already beaten a dragon, so it's actually a knight that's guarding the castle, and he lays this knight out. Think the scene where Shrek is beating up all of the knights in the film, except this is just one knight. He hits him with fire breath and chucks him into a moat to drown. Shrek takes no prisoners. So after demolishing this knight, he heads into the castle and hits the first hurdle that's actually difficult for him to come over. He's surrounded by disgusting monsters. Oh wait, no, it's just a house of mirrors. This book hates Shrek. So he realizes he's in a house of mirrors and he just goes on through. Then he meets the princess. They fall in love instantly. They get married by a crocodile. Again, not sure why. They live horribly ever after. The end. So that's the original story of Shrek. It was written by William Steig and published in 1991. But the transition from book to film was not an easy one, so I'm going to tell you about that as well. So Steven Spielberg got the rights initially in 1991, and he wanted a film with Bill Murray as Shrek and Steve Martin as Donkey. But then DreamWorks got the rights in 1995, and they planned their film from there. However, the film that they started planning is very, very different to the Shrek film that we got in 2001. So the original cast for the DreamWorks film was Chris Farley as Shrek, Steve Martin as Donkey and Janine Garofalo as Princess Fiona. At some point, they replaced Steve Martin with Eddie Murphy, and then unfortunately Chris Farley died after recording most of his lines and was replaced by Mike Myers. But Mike Myers wanted to completely overhaul the script. He didn't want to do anything similar to what they had done with Chris Farley. And somewhere in there, they ended up firing Janine Garofalo. No one actually knows why. She was just fired for some reason. Even she doesn't know why. You can still find some of the original recordings of Chris Farley as Shrek, and they are very, very different to the ones that we got in 2001. That's not the only time the film was overhauled though. Let's talk about Shrek's accent. Okay, before we get into Shrek's accent, I do need to address the elephant in the room here. A lot of you that are watching this will already be thinking, hey, his accent sounds like Shrek. In fact, I've even been told that I look like Shrek, both the real Shrek and the human Shrek. Fuck you to the first one, thank you to the second one. And honestly, I don't even get the accent thing because mine has been sanded down after almost 6 years of living in London. But whatever. So Mike Myers initially did it in an American accent, but then decided way down the line that he wanted to use a Scottish accent instead, which meant that they had to redo a whole bunch of the animation, like most of the film. Apparently it cost about $4 million to redo the animation, but Mike Myers says it wasn't anywhere near this. I don't really know who to believe. Although speaking of animation, that wasn't the only road bump they hit in regards to that. They initially wanted Shrek to be a blend of CG and live action with a bit of motion capture thrown in there, but they all hated the test footage that they ended up spending over a year on, so they scrapped that completely and went with more traditional CG animation, which at the time was still pretty new. It wasn't all plain sailing though. Working on Shrek was seen as a bit of a punishment. If you couldn't cut it elsewhere in DreamWorks Animation, they would send you to work on Shrek. They called that getting Shrek'd. But despite all of its trouble, Shrek ended up as a smash hit and a cultural icon, spawning too many sequels and winning the first Oscar for Best Animated Feature. And that is the origin of Shrek. Donkey!